Hi, welcome back to COM 1160. This is week number 10, video number 1. And in this video, we're going to talk about rough drafting. Before we get started, though, I do want to let you know about some changes to the teaching and learning plan and our weekly schedule that I would like to announce. So if you've been following along with the teaching and learning plan, you'll see that I had set out things so that we would be doing business writing at the end. But I've actually made the decision to move business writing up so that I can give you more time for assignments. I know we're heading into crazy season. We only have, look at this, 5 weeks left in the term. There's going to be lots going on and a lot of assignments in your other classes. So I decided to make these changes so that I can be a little more generous with due dates and be able to give you the maximum amount of time to get things done. So here's what our schedule is going to look like. Week number 10, this week that you're listening to right now, we're going to be focusing on rough drafting. Week 11, the following week, we're going to do a short unit on business writing, and we'll be doing some business writing assignments. Week 12 and 13 will be devoted to creating your final draft of your essay. And of course, I'll go through how to prepare a final draft, but this will give you lots of time to be able to produce the perfect final essay. And then week 14, we're simply doing a final assessment. In week 13, I'll be doing a bit of a review so that you know what to expect in week 14 for your final assessment. So I'll tag that on to one of the videos about the final drafting so that you're set and prepared. Obviously, of course, I will let you know about various deadlines and due dates. Again, the reason I'm making the changes is to give you the maximum amount of time that I can for some of the longer assignments that we'll be doing. Your rough draft that you're going to be working on this week is going to be due March 31st by midnight. Please note that that is not a Sunday. Okay, so I've added in some extra days to give you some extra time. And I am going to ask that you not begin your rough draft until you receive your graded outline, just in case there are any challenges or issues that you need to address with the outline before you get started. I know many of you like to work ahead, and many of you have submitted your outline prior to the due date. I am going to do my best to get through those and grade them early so that those who have submitted early have an opportunity to get started on their rough draft early. So keep an eye out in my grades and for an announcement to let you know when the outlines have been marked. Okay, so today we're going to talk about rough drafting. And everyone has probably had an experience where they've done a rough draft. Just in general, rough drafting is the process of creating a first version of an essay or an assignment. The idea with rough drafting is to write as quickly and efficiently as possible, knowing that you can make changes later. The big thing to keep in mind with rough drafting is not to focus on perfection. Okay, you really are giving it a first go. You're getting stuff down and ideas on paper. It's not time to worry about the pesky little things that come up. You're going to have lots of opportunity to reflect on what you've written and make any changes that you want. So again, try not to focus on perfection. Focusing on perfection is the easiest way to get writer's block so that you're sitting there and anxious and unable to write. Just write the sucker is my advice. Okay, knowing again that you can go back and make any kind of changes that you want later on. For your rough draft, it's important, if you haven't already, that you go through the readings and that you're familiar with the parts of an essay. So we're going to have the introduction, the body of the essay, and the conclusion. You've also set out these different parts in your outline. Now we're really just fleshing them out and pulling them together. Your introduction should be a full paragraph, and it should begin with a general statement about the condition or the disease that you're working on. It then narrows down in specificity and then usually presents the thesis statement as the last sentence. You want a full paragraph here, so you want to aim for about 6 to 8 sentences for your introduction. Your body paragraphs are the real work, okay, of the rough draft. This is where you're going to explain and give information about the various categories that you're talking about, categories of symptoms or categories of treatments. Every paragraph needs to contain a topic sentence. And that's why you roughly drafted out in your outline a topic sentence for each potential paragraph that you're going to write. Remember that the topic sentence always identifies the main idea of a paragraph. It states the point that the writer wants to make about the subject. And generally, I would say 99% of the time, the topic sentence is the very first sentence of the paragraph. Using the detail that you've recorded in your outline, so as you were going through your information, you then move on in each paragraph to make your points and provide detail. Okay, this is your proof to support your topic sentence. You want to be very sure here that you're including in-text citations and that most of the time you are paraphrasing, only including direct quotes if the author has stated something in such a unique way that it's impossible to paraphrase. For each of these body paragraphs, you want to aim for 6 to 8 sentences, although you may end up with longer paragraphs if the point that you're exploring is particularly complex. So remember that all rules are made to be broken. It's perfectly okay if you end up with a longer paragraph if you're explaining a particularly complex idea. Your conclusion is a single paragraph that brings the essay to the close. You can paraphrase your thesis statement here, okay? So repeat it or refer back to the categories that you've talked about in your thesis statement. The one thing you do not want to do, though, is repeat your thesis statement verbatim from the beginning. So you do have to refashion it and kind of rewrite it. It usually ends with your final thought, and your final thought or your memorable or concluding statement is what I asked you to prepare on your outline so that you have your final sentence there. Again, you want to aim for 6 to 8 sentences in your conclusion for a full paragraph. Okay, so you want to give it enough depth that you're ending up with a full and complete paragraph. I have included some enrichment resources for you this week, and if you check in course documents, you'll see a file with 2 suggested enrichment resources that I strongly recommend you take a look at before you write your rough draft. I'm also going to ask you to check course documents for a sample rough draft that I provided on Blois syndrome. So again, if you think back to the outline stage, I gave you a fake outline for a fake condition called Blois syndrome. This week, I'm going to give you a fake rough draft that somebody has put together about Blois syndrome. You'll notice that it's a pretty basic essay. It's certainly not overly complex, but it does really follow the strategy that we're working on. Now it's time to write. Your big assignment this week is just to write your rough draft. Okay, that's your, I'm going to keep this video on the shorter side because I want you to spend all of your time this week just writing this thing. It needs to contain at least 5 paragraphs. So you need an introduction, your body paragraphs, and you need at least 3 of those, although you certainly could go to 4 or 5 if you have a lot of things that you're planning to discuss, followed by a conclusion. I also don't want you to worry overly about mechanics or grammar. Focus right now on ideas, following the structure, and being clear. Okay, that's your aim. You can go back and fix spelling and grammar and punctuation later. So I'm not really going to be looking at that when I evaluate your rough draft. You do not require a title page or references at this stage, but again, I do want to repeat that APA in-text citations are required. So it's very important that you keep track of those. And again, although I've said this many times, remember that you will have an opportunity to revise this draft before your final draft. So you're not marrying this work at all. You're simply going through and giving it a first run so that you have some work then to be able to polish up and turn into the perfect paper. But again, don't get bogged down with worrying about perfection at this stage. You're simply doing your first rough draft. Okay, it's enough of an accomplishment just to get that done. We'll worry about all of the pretty stuff later. In the next video, I am going to go over the assignment requirements again for you, just so that you have clarity on exactly what it is that I'm looking for. So I'll talk to you in our next video.